Hi, welcome to my follow-up video from Stamp Wars. We did Stamp Wars last Saturday on Nancy Stamp's YouTube channel. We will be doing a giveaway follow-up live on Nancy's channel this Saturday, October 31st. That's at Nancy Stamps on YouTube. Yes, that's at Halloween. In order to be eligible for my prize and to enter the giveaway on my channel, please like. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe and comment your favorite fall color. Be sure to watch the other participants. Chow, Ryan, Stacy, and Nancy made a video too as a follow-up, and you can find the links to their channels in the description box below. We're looking forward to seeing you all on Saturday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time on Nancy's channel. Thanks so much to our sponsor, Technique Junkies, who sponsored Stamp Wars for us last Saturday. These are the products that were given to us by Technique Junkies, along with the card that I made. We had this beautiful stamp set called Framed Leaves, which has the leaves as well as 3 big scripty sentiments. Technique Junkies also provided this stencil from a Colorful Life Designs. This is the skeleton leaf stencil, and some of this Shimmering Bliss spray. This is the Harvest Sunset color. It's really pretty. It has a lot of shimmer in it, and it looks great when it's sprayed onto the project. I've used a lot of it already, and I'm sure I'll be using it in a lot of my other projects in the future. My card features watercoloring as well as the stencil and heat embossing. We were required to use at least one part of the stamp set. We were required to watercolor. We were required to use the stencil. And so all of our cards had to be made within, we also had to use the shimmer spray, and our card had to be made within 1 hour. And there was also a sabotage involved, which was playing bingo. You'll just have to watch the video yourself to see what it was all about, if you're not familiar or if you didn't catch it. I'm using Catherine Pooler inks to ink blend my stencil. This is Rocking Red. I use Orange Cream. I was going to use green tea, but I ended up not using any green tea. And that gold color or yellow is called Samba. I used Pixie spray. I sprayed it off camera so that my stencil would stick to the paper temporarily while I ink blend. I'm using blender brushes from Amazon, and you can find these brushes in Nancy Stamp's Amazon storefront. There will be a link in my description box below where you can find her Amazon storefront. So this is a beautiful stencil. A lot of great projects can be made just with the stencil, and then when you add in the beautiful stamp set and the shimmer spray, it just makes for such a wow factor. What I'm doing is I am rotating the stencil in different directions. It doesn't have to all be in the same direction because this is my background. And what's the most important thing to me is that you can see the stencil, you can see the veins in the leaves, and you can see the color. I chose the Catherine Pooler dye inks because they are very vibrant. I wanted inks that would really just pop, because being in the background, sometimes the background gets a little lost, and I just think that this is such a beautiful pattern, and this leaf stencil is just something that is really going to grab your attention when you look at the card. So you can let me know whether you think the same about this stencil. I do know that Technique Junkies has provided a discount code for basically our followers who watch our videos. I will have that discount code listed below in my description box. It's only good until October 31st, so you want to make sure you check that out and use that discount code. But the last time I checked, that stencil was sold out, and hopefully they'll be getting more in. So I have some glitter gold embossing powder from my stash. The label is worn off. I don't even remember what brand this is, but it's not bad considering it's not like the newest embossing powder in my supply. But you can see that glitter and how sparkling it is. I take a paintbrush and I tap off on the sides. I want to get as much extra glitter off as possible because it is kind of messy. This embossing powder, again, is gold with glitter. And I know that you can see that glitter right there on the paper. I'm just using my paper as a funnel to get that embossing powder back into the container. And I will show you the process of me heat embossing my leaves. I have my heat tool underneath to begin with. This is a trick that you might not know, but it is helpful because it prevents all that glitter from blowing off the paper. Okay, so I picked a sentiment from the stamp set, the one that says gratitude. I'm using Versamark ink on my stamp. This is a clear ink that's sticky, and I am going to heat emboss my sentiment with the same gold glitter embossing powder that I embossed my leaves with. I did speed the footage up so that we could get through the video, and the video wouldn't be too long. I do not move this fast in real life. I certainly don't craft this fast in real life. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and heat this up, and you can see that heat gun is melting that embossing powder, and it says with gratitude. The sentiments are fantastic for this time of year, but also for any time of year. So I have some Korean markers. They are a water-based marker that are highly pigmented, and they're great for watercoloring. So I started with red, which is one of the colors that you can get in these markers. And I am going to fast forward a little bit because I took my time, and it's a very small brush, but I think that has helped create just a real pretty look in the end. You can be the judge of that once this is done. But the colors of Korean markers that I have currently are red, canary, gold, and there's a pink color that I have and a green. But for this card, I use the red, and amber. I also have the color amber. So red, canary, gold, and amber. And those were the colors that I used to color in the leaves. Because I heat emboss the leaves, they create sort of, I guess for lack of a better word, wells where the ink stays inside what you're coloring and doesn't bleed out to the rest of the paper. That's what I like about heat embossing before I watercolor. It definitely is a good helper. And there's nothing wrong with your watercolor being, outside the lines if that's what you're going for. But I was definitely trying to keep everything within the lines on this, just because I will be trimming these leaves. I'll be fussy cutting them and using them as a frame to frame my sentiment. I just use a little bit of water on my paintbrush, and I have a very fine tipped paintbrush. I find that you only need a little bit of water to get the color moving. And if at first you don't pick up enough water, you can always dip your brush in again, but I'm just literally putting the tip of the brush in because it's such a tiny brush. There's no need to saturate it completely. And if I accidentally do dip it all the way in, I can just use my paper towel and dry my brush off. This is amber, so it's not exactly orange, but it is kind of orangish. It looks more orange when I scribble it. Oh, and by the way, I have a piece of laminated graph paper that I'm using as my palette. So I just had a laminating pouch and ran it through my ink machine and used that as my palette. I don't want to get any paint on my cutting mat. It's an Altenew cutting mat that's specially designed with a center piece that you can put your A2 cards or even your 5x7 cards in the center of the mat for perfect centering and alignment of your panels on your card. And I just want to keep this mat as nice as possible for as long as possible. This paper that I'm using and the paper that I used for my sentiment and the paper that I used for my stencil background, it is the Accent Opaque 100-pound paper, which is a nice thick cardstock. It's actually what I used to cut my card bases. And when I went to fussy cut my leaves, it was kind of hard to cut. So, but I wanted it to be a thicker paper because I didn't want to use watercolor paper. My watercolor paper is fine, but it's hard sometimes to heat emboss on a watercolored paper. Sometimes it's easier just on a smoother paper. I think you know what I mean. It doesn't matter because I'm using such little amount of water. It's not as if I have to use watercolor paper. So just remember that. If you're coloring in something that you heat emboss and you're just going to be using a little bit of water, you don't have to use watercolor paper. Just use a heavy duty cardstock and don't put too much water on it and it'll be fine. Okay, so I colored my leaves, watercolored. You see my background using the stencil. I'm going to fussy cut my sentiment. And again, we were required to create a card that used something from the stamp set. We had to use something out of the stamp set. We had to use the stencil. We had to use this shimmering spray. And we also had to watercolor, which that wasn't a problem for me. I knew right away when I saw the stamp set. We don't get to see the stamp sets in advance, by the way. It is a mystery stamp challenge. So when we open the bags live on YouTube and you see the expression on our face, that's the, real expressions of what our reactions are to what we're seeing. And when I opened it and saw this set, I was thrilled. I keep telling the other people that are on the challenge, Stacy and Chow and Nancy and Ryan, that I could make 100 cards with this stamp set. I love it so much. It's just something about these leaves and the way that they create a frame around the scripty words. It's just a gorgeous stamp set. So yeah, that's what's fun about Stamp Wars. We don't know what we're getting ourselves into whenever we open up our package. We are part of the design team for the FSC, which stands for Foiling Snobs Clubs, and we have a Facebook page. It's a private Facebook page, but you're welcome to join. I'll have a link below. And here I just sprayed the stencil and the leaves with this spray that is called, Harvest Sunset. Okay, I have some rose gold foil. I'm going to trim this down rose gold foil cardstock that I got from Michael's. I'm going to trim this down and line up everything. And first I will glue my leaves down to my panel, which has that beautiful stencil in the background. I'm using art glitter glue, but I'm also tapping it off again onto my laminated graph paper because I don't want my ink to ooze out, and I don't want my ink to do that because it could potentially discolor anything that it contacts, and I want my background to be as crisp as possible. Now I'm just taking some of that orange cream ink from Catherine Puller and I'm edging my sentiment, tapping off the glue and then adhering it to my panel. And it gives you just a few seconds when you use liquid glue to get everything straight. I just had to apply one more little dot of glue because something was popping up, and I'm going to put glue on the back of my panel and adhere that to the foil card stock. I have a stamp block that is kind of heavy that I laid on top just to try to make sure everything sticks together. I'm picking 5 jewels from my new jewel rhinestones and jewels. Thank you, Chow, for letting us know about this. Chow used this on her card when she did her live card, and we were all very interested in this set. So I have this jewel picker tool that I'm using to apply the ink and apply the jewel. In theory, I am not very good at applying these things. I'm sure if I did it more often, I would get better at it, but I'm learning. Thanks to my design team members and their hints, I'm also learning about placement of these little jewels and how many are too many. You should use an odd number, keep it in the shape of a W. So I did that this time. So I've got some gold and some orange, and I put that on a white card base, and I'm going to give you a close-up view here of how sparkly and shiny this is. I love this card. I think it turned out great. I hope you like it too. I'm going to be giving one of the cards that I made to whoever wins my prize pack. And here are some close-up photos of this card that I made. Make sure you go to the Foiling Snobs Club on Facebook to vote. You'll see it as a blind vote. You won't know whose card you're voting for. You'll just vote for the card that you like the best. And we will be crowning our new Stamp Wars winner on Saturday, the 31st of October at 4 o'clock, live on Nancy Stamp's channel. We will also be picking the winners. All of these people will be pulling a winner. Chow, that's me beside Chow. That's Nancy in the middle, Stacy and Ryan, and I don't think we'll be wearing witches' hats. But you never know. It is Halloween after all. Thanks for watching. See you real soon. Bye-bye.